Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Film Appreciation Podcast. I am your host, Nick, and as always, I am joined by my highly charismatic co-hosts,
Charismatic.
Isaac and Marlon. You're welcome.
Good to be here.
Inspirational.
Happy Saturday.
So this is actually a reattempt at the podcast, which is
Our first ever.
Yeah, we had a failed recording, what was it, a few days ago?
Yeah, so this might take a little longer. It's already taken a bit longer, but
Yeah.
we make do.
It's like been over a month or something.
Quality over quantity, all right, guys? And you're getting neither.
Yeah. You're just getting content, bro. Yeah.
Just accept it and move on.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, as always, Absolute Cinema continues, and, some of it wasn't really that absolute this month, and that leads me right into
Into
MaXXXine, directed by T. West, which was the third film in the X trilogy, which is like a set of horror slashes starring Mia Goth, which started a couple years ago. And there was X, and there was Pearl, which is a prequel to X, and now there's MaXXXine, which is a sequel to X.
Wonderful.
I know, very succinct, and essentially just follows this chick who, in the first movie, escaped a massacre, and she's now becoming a Hollywood star. She used to be a porn star.
Now she wants to be a real star.
Real star, movie star. MaXXXine, what do you guys think? Well, maybe first of all, let's as a side note, did we like the other ones?
Yeah.
Because we were familiar with the series.
So I only watched X and Pearl for the first time quite recently, knowing that we had to watch MaXXXine here.
Yeah.
And X was good, not great.
Disagree, but yes.
Pearl is my favourite of the trilogy. I think it clears X. I enjoyed the style. I enjoyed the performances. There was an incredible monologue at a dinner scene. Pearl is by far and wide my favourite of the trilogy. And MaXXXine is a letdown, though I still did like the style and the aesthetic of MaXXXine.
Right, so I only slightly disagree. I mean, I do like Pearl a lot. I was really hyped for MaXXXine because I loved the other two so much. But mainly X, actually, is my favourite. It's probably become one of my favourite horror movies. I think it's great. And is really fun and funny, but actually is quite tense at times as well.
Yeah.
Pearl, I enjoyed it a lot, but I just didn't find it remotely intense or scary at all. It was just more of an interesting type whatever. Isaac, what did you think?
Pretty much the same as me. Definitely liked X more than Pearl, but Pearl's still a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
X is a good movie. MaXXXine is neither. MaXXXine, I remember, because I watched it with Nick, and when we were driving home, we were talking about the movie. We're just kind of like throwing stuff out there, like thinking about it, like,
just spitballing. Yeah.
And then Nick turns to me and goes, the more we talk about it, the more I realize it was just kind of shit. It was like we went from, I feel like coming out of the theater, I sort of had like this sort of, it was all right. It was whatever. But then we were talking about it, the more we talked about it, I was like, holy fuck, this thing sucked. This thing was so bad.
Yeah.
See, I don't think I was given that opportunity.
Yeah.
I saw it by myself at a South Bank Cineplex.
Jesus.
One of my favourite cinemas for its penny entrance.
I actually hate that cinema.
Sticks and stones, you could walk in with a log and give it to them and they'd let you in.
Yeah.
And it was one of the most uncomfortable cinema experiences I've had because everyone in there was just not really there. Let's say. Okay. I had a man staring at me for the whole film.
Dude, that's awesome.
A man sitting in front of me, staring behind me the whole film.
That is the best thing I've ever heard.
It was really
that
uncomfortable.
That actually would have made it scary.
That made the movie better for sure.
It was really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Well, I had one eye on the screen and this guy with mouth open.
I'm not gonna lie to you, dude. That is the exact thing that this movie's missing. That strange tension.
Yes.
And uncomfortability.
There's no tension in this movie.
Which is exactly what X had.
Yeah.
Which was the whole oldie thing, and it had a really eerie music, and you're kind of sitting there like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and I suppose Pearl, because she's younger again, you're finding out.
But she's more psychotic, and you're like following a villain in Pearl. Like, she's the bad guy.
Yeah, this is the beginning.
Yes.
But I was just uncomfortable throughout the film, regardless of what was on the screen. It was just, All
right. So
anyway,
should we? I'm thinking maybe we should break this up in terms of how we talk about it into like what it did well, because I don't think that would take very long, and then just what it did poorly, because did a lot of stuff pretty bad.
Yeah.
This could be the movie, for me at least, where we talk about it and gets worse.
Yeah. Okay.
In comparison to Gene Dillman.
So do you have anything?
Yes.
Do you have anything that right away you think it did well?
So first of all, I loved the aesthetic.
Yeah.
I think that T West did the 80s. Is this the 80s, right? He did the 80s better than he did the 70s in X. I think he was given more chance to do it because it's a bigger set. It's not just one farmhouse.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that. I also haven't watched an 80s style movie in a while, and I loved it. Generally, I do like the 70s aesthetic, but this was excellent. I liked that it was quite succinct and short. With a film like this where it's not doing anything remarkable, I'm glad I didn't have to watch a 2-hour 40 film.
Yep.
I thought that was good, and I think the other two films are quite short too. So he's committed to that.
Yeah.
Mia Goth is good. Nothing special.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that, this was probably her worst performance in the trilogy.
three.
Just because her character, I don't think, was written well at all.
Hasn't been given the chance.
She's incredibly passive. She basically has no control or involvement in the whole story.
So just you get told to do this, then you do it.
But then she
then you
also
don't.
just like spazzes out and is supposed to be this badass.
Yeah, they sort of just write these occasional scenes in where she like kills people or is really like this sort of tough bitch
crushes
type
the
character.
guy's balls.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
My favourite scene in the film was the nightclub chase.
When was that?
Through the nightclub with
the
the
toilet.
private detective.
Yeah.
That was shot brilliantly, and I loved the flickering lights. And then obviously the opening credit scene where the car speeds off with MaXXXine as the number plate was a cool shot. Nothing special. People have done it before.
Expected,
blah, blah,
yeah,
blah. But other than that, pretty much the only thing I really enjoyed was the aesthetic or the vibe of the film. The story was quite just average, and it fell apart the further it went along.
Yeah, I mean, the aesthetic, I guess it's fine, but nothing about it like blew me away. And at this point, we've seen so many recreations of old Hollywood in the 60s or the 80s or whatever it is, and like this doesn't hold a candle to any of those. I mean, I think Stranger Things, which is a show I don't even really like that much, is way better at doing that and fleshing it out. I mean, the problem is, and I was saying this to Isaac, is that the worst aspect of this film is the writing. And it's just a bunch of shit like in a bucket, and that bucket is the script. You know, and there's not enough time to let anything breathe, and for you to sort of, for me, I never felt soaked up in any of the atmosphere of the world because it was too choppy. There's too much shit. There's too much, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this, and
nothing had any weight.
No.
I think
I guess we should go through like for example, the detective characters.
In retrospect, I was going to say there felt like there was no consequence throughout.
Yeah, it was.
There was no time where I felt Maxine was unsafe.
Yeah.
That was
That's my biggest problem in
thinking.
thinking.
Yes, because there were so many opportunities for her to be killed.
Well, you got the detective, the father, the cops near her.
Oh, that's what. Yeah. Okay,
There's nothing. All right, you go through it.
So
you
like
have a structure.
The two detectives, they do nothing in the movie.
Nothing.
They're just there to die at the end.
Yeah, and
which, by the way, was the most. Oh, they're dead. Okay.
Yeah, they had the most unceremonious like death scenes.
Yeah. Especially the woman cop, just like.
Yeah, she got a crucifix in her eye and just rolls down the hill.
Anyway, we'll get to the ending because the ending is dreadful. But and then there's the detective character who he was fine at the start.
Kevin Bacon.
But he just became too much of a joke.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is also as well is that I feel like he was in it too much.
That as well, yeah.
You know, he was sort of this assistant to the main guy, but because of the twist with the main guy doesn't really want to kill his daughter type thing, it's like you kind of have to have this evil presence throughout the whole film so you feel like Maxine's in some kind of danger. But it just doesn't really doesn't really make a whole lot of sense because he's a PI. Like PIs aren't assassins. It's really bizarre. And it just sort of feels like they were in a corner and had to write in stuff for Maxine to do. Because as I said, like, she is the most passive, useless protagonist in this movie. She does fucking nothing. And just sort of hangs around. And just, for most of the movie, she just hears about other people that she knows dying until the very end.
Yeah.
And so, anyway.
And then the director character is just... like,
The lady. What was her name?
It's just so like...
Well, it was Elizabeth Debicki, which is
Elizabeth Bender in the film.
Yeah, it's always good to see her, 'cause she's an Aussie actress.
Oh, yeah.
And she's really great.
She plays a British director in this, does she not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She often plays British. I mean, I think she won an Emmy for playing Princess Diana in The Crown.
Oh,
as a show I haven't seen, but yeah.
And then there was all those flashback stuff, which was just... it didn't work. It was so bizarre, and it felt out of place. And the flashbacks never really got... they weren't really relevant most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Like, they didn't advance the story. It was just like, oh, yeah, this thing happened in the past.
Yeah, well, they kept... and really, I find that really annoying because they kept showing clips from X.
Yeah.
Which... kind of feels just a bit lazy just to sort of dump multiple clips in of a different movie. But also, yeah, it didn't add anything to the story. It was just kind of like they didn't actually have any sort of... like this... If her name wasn't Maxine, then this would not be connected to X even remotely. It has nothing to do with it. Which is why and we'll get to the ending again because I hate it. But, like, the twist ending of who the killer is at the end doesn't really work because... it's insular to this thing. There's no setup for his character in the trilogy.
Yeah.
And I was saying to Isaac, I was really hoping that the killer would be somebody like Jenna Ortega from the first X movie. For some reason. Because I was like, then there would be some sort of connective tissue there.
Well,
but there wasn't.
The only connective tissue is that he comes up on the screen in X delivering a sermon.
Yeah, but like, I guess
so he's delivering a sermon in X. And in X it works well because it's like... they were talking about God or something, and there was people getting killed, and then it cuts to the sermon of the father talking, and it was quite cool.
Yeah.
While the old man's sitting in the chair in the farmhouse.
Yeah.
And that was quite cool. But look, there is I feel like it cuts too far forward in time between X and Maxine.
Sure.
Or there isn't as you said, the space between the two to develop that story more. Like, we see Maxine as like in the end of her porn career. We don't see it. That was the start, and then there's a huge gap. Let's consider she's done quite well. We imagine. Don't see any of that for reasons probably, but then it's straight to wanting to be an actress, and that's fine. But it feels a bit too far forward.
Yeah.
For me, that's a 10-year gap.
Yeah.
And I know Pearl's a 20-year prequel, but 50-year prequel. Sorry. But
the other problem as well is all of her friends except the black dude are just in the movie so that they can die.
Yes, they can get killed.
Yeah, they're
actually
put
do
in the
anything.
movie for one scene to set them up just for them to die. Like Halsey's character was in just one scene and then she's killed off screen.
Oh, dude, I actually forgot she was in this movie.
Yeah, they find her.
Is she the singer?
She is a singer. I don't know. In this, is she
in the
one of
movie? She was the
prostitutes?
short black-haired
Yeah,
prostitute.
but
She has, like,
she's
two
a
lines, I
singer.
reckon.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But they have her at, she's like one of the first credits at the start of the movie. Because I was like, oh, I didn't even know she was in it.
It's a
And
big
then
name.
Yeah, but it's like, it's just, she's not even in it. And there's no reason she couldn't have been in it.
Yeah.
They just decided to not develop anything.
Yeah. I mean, the only sort of, I think I said to Isaac, the only character that I actually personally enjoyed was Giancarlo Esposito's character.
Yeah.
But
again, his character should have been slightly changed, I think.
Yeah. He's sort of just there
The agent.
for plot convenience and shit. And is like overly competent, even though all the other characters in the film are super incompetent. But
And
I mean,
whole-
I enjoy Giancarlo Esposito a lot.
Yeah,
just
he
as
was
an
a lot of
actor,
fun.
So it's like, I don't mind it.
And what, he crushes Kevin Bacon.
Dude, that whole scene.
That was cool.
That whole scene is so dumb, though.
Oh yeah, with the dogs.
They bring out the hounds, and the hounds aren't even there for any reason.
Yeah,
The hounds are there to eat the...
yeah, but they don't set it up. They just like all of a sudden this character with hounds is there.
Yeah.
and he's in for one scene with
Gotcha.
no context. It was like they must have cut moments out of the film.
And that dude, I'm pretty sure was like one of the like filming dudes at the start at the porn place. But anyway, the point is, it's still dumb. Like, this guy just has his dogs. It's so stupid. It was bizarre. But other than that, the ending obviously is so terrible because it becomes very campy as soon as she enters the house, or they kidnap her, I think, and then she's in the house. Mm-hmm. And
No, she goes to the house of her own accord.
Okay, yeah. So she goes to the house, and then her dad, priest guy, is like doing this insane acting performance where it's like I know it's on purpose. It's very intentional. You can feel it, but it just does not fit with the movie.
Yeah.
And it's like he's doing like an old school vampire impression or something.
Yeah.
And it's like his eyes are so wide open. He's doing like hand movements, like he's cosplaying or something. And he's like getting all up in her face, and it just was terrible.
Well, he's
and
trying
then,
to mock her.
but then
in
the
part.
whole plot, dude, was just dumb.
Yeah.
Wow, these religious people are.
Well, you want to know one of the biggest things about it that's dumb? The fucking Night Stalker
Yeah, the
is
Night Stalker
completely
nothing.
superfluous to the film. And they have this Night Stalker character who's this serial killer, and you're thinking, oh, this guy, we're following the Night Stalker, he's the killer. But it's like, no, this is somebody else doing killings, and he's pretending to be this Night Stalker.
Also,
Which, by the way, there's just no point for any of that.
Yeah.
There's no reason for any of that. It's like, oh, he's just pretending to be this serial killer.
because the thing is as well, right, is like there's no setup of the fact that her father might be a killer, so it's not like any like misdirection. It's just totally out of the blue that, oh wow, he's actually the killer. Oh,
And then also...
That's why it's unsatisfying.
Yeah.
Then you have to consider as well that a plot twist that a parent is a killer is one of the most common tropes as well.
Yeah.
When you're trying to figure out murders
Yeah.
or anything of that like.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, my parents have done it. And then there's
But I mean,
that conflict between parent and child.
yeah.
Which sometimes can work really well, but in this case it doesn't at all.
I totally forgot her dad was even like a relevant thing. But the thing that I just realized that, you know, at the start of the movie how they have the clip of her as a kid,
Yeah.
and it's her dad speaking to
Uh-huh.
her.
And
That's
I'm gonna
literally
be a star.
only in there so that they can reintroduce the fact that her dad is a thing that exists, so that at the end of the movie they can be like, what?
Yeah.
No way.
But yeah.
But that whole thing of the Night Stalker is totally superfluous.
Yeah,
Because at the
totally.
end, once the priest or whatever is killed, they're just like, oh, this Night Stalker serial killer has been arrested, who's somebody else. I'm like, why was this in the movie? Why could you not just have killings? Why did you have this extra layer of this cover up for no reason?
Also, the ending, you know how it has like her talking to the director and stuff, and they're all like, oh, you're so amazing, you're the best. And then
Yeah.
it cuts back to her
Yeah.
killing her dad.
Yeah.
Is that supposed to be like that whole thing was imagined? Or that actually happened and then that's like the future?
No, I
and
think
come
that,
back to the
I think
present.
that actually happened.
Yeah, and
but the
that's
problem
the
is
future.
it's unclear.
Well, because she's trying to tell her story after the fact, right?
But she
That's
just
the-
killed a.
But also-
the cops are telling her, Maxine, we have you surrounded.
Yeah, that's
if
what
you,
I was confused
But they're going, if you don't drop the gun, we'll shoot you.
Yeah,
and then
but-
she's just going to blow his head clean off, and they're like, oh, okay, well, she just killed that guy.
Well, my
Just let it
logic,
go.
my logic was like they thought she was the
Killer.
the bad person.
Yeah,
and so
well, that's what I
what's
thought
actually
too.
going to happen is
I was hoping that she was going to get blown away. I was like, oh, she'll just get shot, and I'll be like, well, that's pretty.
It's a better end with the trilogy than leaving
look,
it
man,
open.
whatever which way it isn't good. So I don't really care.
Yeah, I think I was saying to Isaac, the main thing is this. To me, X felt like a great horror movie that was made with like good ideas, and Pearl spawned naturally out of that another movie with great ideas through something else. And because they made those two, and they were financially successful, it was like, we may as well make a third one to make a trilogy. This one felt like it was written out of obligation and with no real sort of sense of passion to me.
Yeah.
Because it just felt...
To round off her.
To round it off, it just felt like another
Yeah.
thing that was something else, and it was rushed, and it was messy, and I don't think it was polished at all. And it was just sort of like, well, here's the thing to end it. Okay.
It's
You
done.
know.
Let's get it over with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does T West do now? Not much, probably.
Well, I mean, MaXXXine, I think, will probably make quite a bit of money, so he'll probably be able to get whatever he wants next finance, so that'll probably be what he does.
Sure.
But,
He looks nothing like what I thought he'd look like.
I mean, at the end of the day, like, and I think Isaac was saying this, whilst I was watching the movie, I wasn't having a terrible time.
I enjoyed watching it.
It was sort of like, I don't know if I'm going to say I'd enjoyed it. I sort of
enjoyed
was
it.
just sitting there very,
I was
very
sitting
sort
there
of
like-
benign. I was just
yeah.
like, okay. Watching it, like, yep, stuff's happening. None of it was particularly violent. I don't think it was as violent as the other two. other than that.
I thought we were going to miss talking about this scene, actually, the testicle
Yeah.
explosion. Dude,
That
Nick
was
and I
the
were
only
sitting
scene
there.
there where there was
squirming
like,
scene.
Nick and I were sitting there going, oh,
It was right
holding our nuts, bro.
on the heel.
Ay, ay,
For sure.
ay.
That would scream with pain.
and that was another problem, was that was like the best kill or whatever, and that was at the start.
Yeah.
And most of the kills actually happen off screen, which is what's really goofy. Like, so many of them happen off screen. It's
Actually,
really
the
bizarre.
black dude getting murdered was pretty good too.
Yeah, well, that was
that
pretty
was pretty
violent.
where he gets
Yeah.
slashed
Slashed,
both sides,
yeah.
and then
That was pretty
Poor
good.
man, he just wanted
Because
to
it happened like kind of slowly, like the way that he did it,
yeah.
and it was all gushing
silent
out.
and
Yeah, that was pretty good.
But yeah, I sort of was watching it very benign. I was like, yeah, whatever. And then as soon as I finished it and started thinking about it, I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
And it just sort of, the main thing is I just find it, this movie annoys me because it's a stain on two
The
other
other two.
really great movies.
Yeah.
And it's not so bad that it ruins my love for the other ones.
Well,
Like I will
yeah.
definitely rewatch Pearl and X one day, but yeah, this was sort of just whatever.
I was going into MaXXXine hoping it would be brilliant, and then you'd have one of the greatest, or
Yeah.
a great trilogy.
A great horror trilogy, which like never happens.
But it's let them down. But in saying that, I did still enjoy watching the film, sort of not really thinking about it. Because I didn't have a chance to talk to anyone after, so it was just, oh yeah, it looked nice,
Yeah.
you know? And then, like, I didn't like the ending, but I was like, it looked nice. You know,
Yeah.
it was fun.
I kind of feel
It
like
was
this is
cheap.
a movie you'd watch when you're sick.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah, or
you
at
just put it
home and
on,
you're bored, background movie,
Yeah, and
kind of
just-
vibe.
You're like
like a-
vacuuming the apartment.
not
fever
following the
dreams,
plot.
You kind of forget that it existed.
There's some good music playing
So I
in
was
the
like, oh, did you
background.
watch a movie? Like,
But
oh, yeah, I guess I did.
Yeah, when we were driving, I said to Isaac, I think I've forgotten half that movie already. Like, just 20 minutes later.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I,
is that all there is?
yeah.
Is there more?
There's not more.
What do we think of the title, actually? MaXXXine with 3 X's, because it's the third one. Is that the
And I
logic?
also think that Triple X is like a porn,
Oh, true.
you know. Like,
And
Okay.
it makes sense because you've got X.
That's pretty clever, actually.
I think that the title is fine.
That's good.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. All right.
Probably one of the better things of the film, eh?
Yeah, maybe.
I'm ready for ratings.
Yeah.
I'll kick it off. I am going to give it 2.5 stars.
Which is?
5 out of 10.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10.
Ditto, yeah, I'm going for.
No worries. I'm looking at my other 5-star films and I can't give it worse than that.
Yeah.
So
5 star? You mean 5 out of 10?
5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was going to say, I was like, hang on, comparing this to a 5-star movie.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Jesus.
This is literally the next 2001.
Could be.
Must.
Anyway, we're moving on now. Okay, so yeah, Kinds of Kindness by Yorgos Lanthimos. It's split into 3 parts, so it's like an anthology, I guess.
Yeah.
But each of them are with the same actors, so it's quite familiar across it, but they're totally different stories.
Yeah.
And so, of course, the title is Kinds of Kindness, but the movie can be quite cruel.
Yeah. That's kind of the irony of it.
Yeah.
yes.
So I think probably the best way to talk about it is if we split it up into each part, and then we just talk about them individually.
That works
Yeah.
well.
So the first part,
The death of RMF.
yeah, and so that's a story, I guess, of having a controlled life. So we find, what's the main dude's name? It's like something Fletcher.
Does it matter? Can we
Robert?
just, can we just call
Yeah.
him Jesse Plemons?
Jesse
Yeah.
Plemons. Yeah,
In the
probably the best
first,
way to
in
do
the
it.
first.
Jesse Plemons in the first thing. He works for Willem Dafoe's character, I guess, and Willem
Yeah.
Dafoe's character is just like every single part of his life has been laid out for him. Every decision, he doesn't have to make any decisions, basically.
Yeah.
And Willem Dafoe's character wants him to drive his car into this random dude
And kill
And
a
kill
guy
him.
in a car crash.
and
yeah.
Jesse Plemons says, "No, bro, I can't do that." And so then Willem Dafoe's like, "I gotta cut you off." And his life becomes worse because now he's on his own.
Yeah.
And then by the end of it, he's like, I actually just skipped Emma Stone's character. Emma Stone basically replaces him as I don't know what to call it, but like the person whose life is
His
controlled.
muse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Willem's muse.
Yeah. And then at the end, Jesse Plemons is like, okay, fine. He goes spaz mode, kills the dude anyway, just drives over him
Yeah.
over and over again.
Oh yeah, right. He
Yeah.
steals him from the hospital.
Yeah, yeah. Which is so funny because there's that black
Tips.
kid watching him do it.
Yeah. Yeah, he watches him knock out a nurse, put the uniform on, but then he tips this injured guy out of a wheelchair because Emma didn't kill him either.
Yeah.
Emma Stone's character.
She tried to.
Yeah,
though.
but she couldn't. And
Yeah.
she gets all banged up. And then, yeah, in this little roundabout in the hospital, just
I was under the impression he was going to die anyway. But then
in that hospital.
Yeah, but then he was just like, no, I'm the one who's going to do it.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
So that he can get back with Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
And that was pretty funny because Willem Dafoe was like, oh, I knew I could rely on this. It's a lot of fun. It is great.
Let's just get out of the way now. Willem Dafoe is excellent. He's such a
excellent at
prolific
everything, dude.
actor.
That's what I'm saying, dude. I think
He
he
is
might be like the most
one of the-
prolific actors
yeah.
of our time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And he's so fun as well.
Yeah.
He has such a unique look.
He's the greatest dude ever.
And I love recently how Yorgos has been sticking with the same cast as well.
Yeah.
That's some.
But I mean, when you've got the likes of like Willem Dafoe and Emma Stone, they're the A team, bro.
Jesse
and
Plemons.
also recently, Jesse Plemons has acted incredibly and made me uncomfortable quite a few times.
He's a great actor.
Not only
too,
does he
actually.
look like he's been squashed, but in Civil War,
Oh yeah,
really unnerving.
yeah.
There's a fucked up scene.
The one thing though is,
Yeah.
What kind of American are you?
do you think he's Loki going to get typecasted?
Oh, absolutely.
Or do you think he's
so.
going to escape it? Because in this movie, he kind of in this. Oh, I was going to say
He plays three radically different characters in this movie.
but they're all the same sort of thing. That they're this kind of uncomfortable, strange guy.
I would say the only thing that Jesse's never played is like a happy comedian. He's never played someone who's like really funny. Really happy.
He plays the funny guy.
Like
who's
he's never
just
been
insane.
in a rom-com.
Well, I
Yeah.
watched a movie called Game Night last year, and last year, and that's him. Everyone thinks he's a murderer in the house next door.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
he's an unpleasant-looking fella.
Well, actually, it's weird because I don't think he is. I think he seems like a really nice, mellow dude, but
Yeah.
he's just
he
a great
seems
actor.
nice. He looks unpleasant.
I don't
Yeah.
think he looks unpleasant though. He just looks
No.
normal. But he
I mean,
kind of has like he just has a sort of disturbed look in his eyes when he's
Perhaps
acting.
that's it.
When he looks normal, when he's like just normal, he just looks like a guy.
Have either of you seen The Power of the Dog?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
What's he
No,
like?
he
in
was
that?
he was a really normal dude. In
Okay.
that. And he was cool. That's a fantastic movie, by the way, Power of the Dog.
Something I want to say because I don't know if it was just me, but when he was playing the cop character in the second one, he kind of looked like Matt Damon.
Well, yeah, there is that
They're like
slight.
he looked like Matt Damon if he was like kind of just
Plus, there are clips of Matt Damon's shaved head.
yeah. I don't know. It was very funny.
There's also the Australian singer, and he gets compared to Jesse Plemons and Matt Damon.
Interesting.
And so there's that sort of archetype of them looking similar.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
Anyway, so do we want to continue talking about the first one, or do we want to move on?
We've barely said anything about
True,
it.
that's a good point.
I was going to say, well, the
It's
first
just
thing...
kind of hard to say stuff about the first one by itself, like without.
Well, because
context.
we're gonna sort of say which was our favorite and least favorite. I think is this everyone's least favorite?
Yes,
story?
yes. For me, it is, but
Yeah.
it's still enjoyable.
Yeah.
I think it just does the least. It has the least to say.
Yeah, I
quite
think
frank.
I think it's the most surface level one. I think it's the most like. There's not really much interpretation in this one. You can kind of just watch it and like understand what's going on. What's interesting about that idea, though, of the kinds of kindness, like the title, is that I actually found great relief when Willem accepted Jesse back. I was like really happy at that outcome, even though it's such a toxic relationship. But you know, you kind of see how his life is unraveling without this hyper control, and it's sort of like for some people, I mean, different strokes for different folks. Some people need that. Like he was happier then than he was not being in control.
Yeah.
Whereas most people, like say all of us, would rather lead our own lives than be hyper controlled. But I find that really interesting that they sort of explored it in an almost positive way. Like this relationship was actually a good thing for this character.
But I wonder if it's a good thing solely because he's been conditioned to only function in
Like
such
that.
a environment. But yeah,
The only question I have, and it's, I think, to both of you, I know you both read. I don't think either of you have read Anna Karenina.
no.
I really
do, you
want
know,
to, though.
do you know anything about it? Do you think it has any...
I think it's just
It's a Russian love story.
I think the
Yeah.
entire point of it being in the movie is just like, look at this. It's just funny that there's this old Russian book that's long.
Well, the book centers around an extramarital affair, right?
Yeah.
And
I think it's just a MacGuffin. I think
Okay.
it's just
I just think
he's
it's-
just reading it for the sake of reading it. It's just a book.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I think it's there to be
because
like,
it's Willem Dafoe recommends it. Remember, he makes Emma.
but I
and
think
Jesse.
I think it's just the head is supposed to be like, oh, this random thing. Why is he recommending them read
But
it?
it's
Gotcha.
And then
but
also
him-
it's a way for him to figure out that.
But him giving it to Emma is just like
yeah.
he must give everyone the same book. He gave her the McEnroe racket or whatever that
Yeah.
was, which was really funny. Yeah, and sort of he just gives everyone sort of the same shit.
Yeah.
So someone says here they think Willem Dafoe giving Robert Anna Karenina is perhaps a reminder of how futile looking for liberation is, because half the plot of Anna Karenina is going in search of something and not finding it and coming back and watching things unravel more.
Right.
Whether that's a link, that could be a stretch, but that's what it says. I just like the
thick
fact.
book. Holy shit, it was fat.
I like the fact though that he read like.
Tolstoy wrote War and Peace, bro.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that he read like this just the start of it, and Willem Dafoe's like, "Oh, have you finished the book?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm nearly done. And he's like, "I've already cried this many times, whatever." It's just such a good bit.
Yeah, Emma Stone goes, I've cried most of the book.
Yeah. Anyway, second one.
Second one, yeah. So the second one is called RMF is Flying. We'll say that the other two don't actually explicitly deal much with a character called RMF. Whereas in the first one, RMF actually was a character. He's the guy who gets hit by a car. Even though he wasn't significant to that story, he was someone involved, you know. But this one, RMF is Flying. Basically, you've got Jesse Plemons is now a cop, and his wife is an army soldier, and she's been lost at sea and is found again. And then he starts to suspect that it's not his wife.
She's a researcher.
Yeah, she's a researcher.
Or whatever,
researcher.
you know. And then she was lost at sea, comes back, done.
Yeah.
She eats someone.
Yeah, she had forced cannibalism while she was on an island and other stuff.
Yeah.
And when he meets back up with her, he starts to suspect that she's not his wife.
It's like that uncanny valley
it's like
sort
clone.
of.
Well, there's certain things like her shoes don't fit her anymore. She's loving chocolate, whereas beforehand she
hated chocolate.
She couldn't eat it.
Less independent.
Yeah.
I think he said at some point.
All sorts of funny, bizarre things.
Like just slight things that if you had a partner, you'd notice.
Yeah.
And
you know,
like
enough to put you off.
forgot his favorite song.
Yeah.
And I think she was being more like kind.
Yeah.
Like she was not getting as pissed off with him as usual. So I think Isaac and I both agree this was our favorite one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this one's just fantastic. And I would say this is probably the darkest one as well.
Yeah.
This one's really confronting, like in certain scenes. I mean, the whole movie is actually really quite dark. But this one especially, what's kind of brilliant about it is that as it goes on, you don't know whose perspective you're actually supposed to believe, because Emma contradicts what Jesse's saying, and she's like, no, it is me. He's become like this nutcase because he's on medication, and you're not really able to tell who's telling the truth, which I think is really interesting. And it sort of devolves into this, you know, cannibalism thing, and it gets really fucked up.
Yeah, so what he gets put on desk duties by the cops essentially.
Yeah.
Because he discharges his firearm at kids.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, they suspend him because
Shot a guy's hand off or something.
because he's under the impression that his wife stole his phone.
Yeah.
And then this kid has a phone.
The exact same phone.
But it's like how many
Like the
people
same
have
model, yeah.
How many people have that
Millions.
phone in the world, dude?
Millions, you know?
And he's like, "How did you get this phone? This is my phone." And then he spazzes out, and shoots them through the hand, I guess. And yeah. So that scene there is supposed to show that this whole either the affair that he's having with, not the affair, but the situation with his wife not being his wife is driving him insane, or he is actually just literally lost plot.
Yeah.
And the thing that maybe makes that more interesting to engage with is the fact that when she's missing and he's just talking to his friends, he is quite strange. It does seem like he's low-key not all there. So maybe like he is slowly just actually just descending into madness. And then of course the meds, I mean, it's a classic Kanye treatment, you know, makes you go a little bit off the rails. But the thing as well with that is I'm not sure how to think about it, but the doctor seemed very bizarre. He seemed
really young.
Well, sure, young, but just his character was very odd, and it seemed perhaps that he might have been in on this big conspiracy, but it's really unclear. Like, I don't think you're supposed to know, oh yeah, he was for sure trying to make him ill or whatever.
Oh, gotcha.
But yeah, and then it gets interesting because at the end of the movie, Jesse Plemons' character starts telling Emma Stone's character to like cut off her finger, and she does it, no questions asked.
Yeah, so he's suspecting her more and more.
So and so she's trying to like overcompensate, it seems like, to
prove she's real.
Yeah. And then it ultimately ends with her cutting out her liver upon his request. And
so she cuts her finger off and he feeds it to the dog.
Yeah, or the cat or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was
He's like,
a
"That's
gruesome
disgusting."
scene to watch. And then
her actually cutting the finger off was really hard to watch.
and then he asks for the liver,
Yes.
Yeah.
and then he walks downstairs and she's
Dead.
sprawled
bled
on a
out.
chair, bled out,
And then
liver on the floor.
Knock on the door.
It's like some botched transplant in Brazil or something.
Yeah. Yeah. And then
Fair
Emma Stone walks in
characterization.
through the door and it's like they
Yeah.
start dancing and you're like, huh?
And which I must say, my impression from the start, although there was some doubt, was that she was fake.
Yes.
I think we all agreed on that.
Yeah, but
there was
To
some...
what extent is it all happening? Like, how are we supposed to take in the fact that there's just this fake person? And why is there a fake person?
Well,
And how did she come back? You know what I mean? There's all
yeah,
like,
well, it's like an alien aspect or a dreaming aspect.
don't know,
I'm
it's
not
very-
sure. I don't think there was enough clued in whether it was psychosis or
well, I'm just not sure if we're supposed to interpret the story literally. Like, oh yeah, this whole thing is a thing that happened.
what I
Or if
would-
it's supposed to be like a bunch of symbolic imagery.
I would counter that though by saying that you could say that like the whole thing, his whole interaction with Emma and everything, is all in his head
Because
He's
she
just missing-
died? Could you just-
Yeah, she could just be dead, and he's just imagining this because he's on medication. The problem is that there's also the involvement of the other characters.
father.
Sure.
Yeah, not only the father Willem Dafoe, but also
friends.
Maud or
The
whatever his
friends.
name is. Yeah,
we forgot the funniest scene in the...
there's the
We'll talk
second
about
funniest
it.
scene.
We'll talk about it.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
true.
But yeah, he has this like black cop friend,
Yeah.
and his wife, and they not only do they have separate scenes without his involvement, which demonstrates that they are participating in whatever is
Sure.
happening,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Well, my point wasn't that it's not that none of this happened. My point is just whether or not that the story is supposed to like
Fuzz.
be interpreted like a normal story that's just literal.
sorry, the police came.
They're here for us.
Oh my god. But yeah, whether or not it's supposed to be interpreted as like, oh, this is all of this is a story, like it's a thing that happened, or whether or not it's just supposed to be like, oh, this is the way I've set up this movie so that you can derive this interpretation. Like, there's a lot of stories that do that, where it's rather than it just being like, this is a literal thing that you should interpret literally, it's more like just imagery that conveys a certain message.
Yeah.
And I have no idea if
So
that's the way
we
we're supposed
were
to
talking about
interpret
in
it.
our first attempt. I think that was like the changing of relationships. I think you mentioned.
Yeah, possibly.
I think
don't actually remember what I
because
was
we
on to.
started with Kinds of Kindness in our first episode. That was our
I don't
first
know what I
film.
was saying, to be honest.
But you were talking about something about changing relationships, or
I might just splice it in and see what.
let's
what
have
it
a
is.
look. We'll have a look.
Yeah,
But anyway, I think that's around where it got cut off.
yeah. Well, I'm not really sure how to think about it.
I'm
but-
happy to take it quite literally, simply because it's Yorgos, and sure, he has a lot of, I guess, not subtext, but he has a lot of symbolism and imagery that can mean something else. But he's also
But it's
just a weird
always-
guy. He is a strange guy.
From a
His
matter
films-
of principle, his stories are supposed to be
His-
interpreted as things that happen.
Yeah, his films
Yeah.
are strange, and I'm happy to take it as that. I think it works for me. It's what I thought at the start of the film as well, start
Yeah.
of that sequence.
It's honestly just the ending thing that I'm like,
You're confused about her walking
how do we?
through the door.
Yeah.
Look, and I guess that's why you two like it the most, is because of
Oh, it's
Jesse
interesting
Plemons'
and it's
character
so
as well.
funny.
Yeah, it's
Not,
interesting.
not knowing, sure, you might agree with his perspective more, but whether it's right or not right or happening, though,
Yeah, which is actually
still puts it into question.
legitimately
and
correct.
Makes it more interesting.
Yeah, I just found it it was the most gripping, and maybe because it's the most dark, and it's not the most complicated, because that's definitely the third one, because the third one is the most open-ended for sure. But yeah, this one kind of balanced the line between being straight up insanely nonsensical, which I think the third one kind of is, and the first one, which is very literal. I think this is a nice balance between the two, and it makes sense that it's like the middle story. But yeah, it was enjoyable.
We could be on our way to getting interrupted here.
Why is that?
Which cops, security guards. Could be something going on.
Who are they looking for, you reckon?
Faps.
I reckon they're looking for Jesse Plemons' character.
Yeah. No, Jesse Plemons is here as a cop. He's here.
Yeah, Jesse Plemons is gonna walk in and be like,
we'll see Mamadou Ati in a
they're
second.
gonna be like, dude,
He's
that's
going to be like, Marlon, give me your phone.
that's not Marlon. That's not Marlon.
I'm gonna
Dude,
just
that's
put my hand. I'm gonna blow it.
it's a replacement. His shoes don't fit him, dude.
His sweater, a bit more gap.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Anyway, so there's the third one.
well, hold on. We
Oh,
need
we
to
still
talk
got
about
a
the
second?
two funny scenes. So the first, Jesse has.
Jumping the gun there, brother.
Oh.
Jesus Christ. So the second film, the first funny scene is, or awfully funny scene, is Jesse Plemons' cop friend. He invites him and his partner, and they're all close friends, over for dinner, and he just like looks over and is like, "Can we watch the movie or the video?"
Yeah, you want to go watch it? And they're like, "Oh,"
and they're like, "Well,"
a bit uncomfortable for us.
They're dancing around it, going like, you can
It's a bit,
clearly tell it's something awkward.
Yeah.
And he gets all sad. Keep in mind, his wife's missing still at this point. No wife has come home. And then he plays all sad this part, and he goes, maybe just a little bit, and they go, all right, yeah, sure. And it cuts to just his cop friend fucking Emma Stone and him fucking his cop friend's wife, which is Margaret Qualley, in this doggy, like, home video recording, 2000s, I think you said, style. Yeah. It's just hilarious. It was a really funny, like, unexpected scene.
So funny.
Because it's a jump
so
cut.
hardcore too, out of nowhere.
Yeah, it was really quite amusing.
I think the thing that made it funny too is like the way that the interaction was happening when they say, "Oh, I think it'd be uncomfortable for us," made it seem like he was just going to show them him fucking Emma Stone, and that would be really uncomfortable. But then it's even funny because you're like, "Oh my god, they were having like
Partner swap.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
It was sudden. I think that was
the sudden switch to like, what the hell?
Yeah, it was very funny.
Because whatever you were expecting, it was not that.
No,
you know
not
what I
at
mean?
all. And then the other scene is the sort of the post credit to and I think so. The whole point of the island where she went missing, not the whole point.
I was gonna say before you get to the post credit thing, she has the story about how she was having a dream where the dogs were in charge
of the island where she went,
and she
got lost.
Yeah, and the only thing she could eat was chocolate, and so she started to like chocolate or something. Because she was like, I think the sentence she says is something like, I thought it was better to eat what was available than not eat at all, unless I imagine that sentence. I think she says that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so like the post credit is, I think, dogs driving through this town.
It's just dogs doing dogs. Dogs doing human stuff.
But then again, there's another just sudden scene of a dog hanging from a roof.
Yeah, just
like it had killed itself.
You said it had its tongue out or something?
Yeah, it had the goofiest, like...
It was like a
smile.
It was like a cute little German Shepherd.
I lost it. I was like almost crying of laughter.
Yeah, I was a bit shocked. It's like,
the story kept going for another 5 minutes, and I just kept like laughing about. Yeah,
it was. Then it had gone to the next film, and you're still giggling about that.
I know when Yorgos thought about putting that in the movie, he definitely just started going, "I am a genius. I am a comedic genius."
It was so goddamn funny.
Yeah, that was pretty funny, man.
And anyway, so the third one, that is called RMF Eats a Sandwich. There's no sandwiches eaten, is there?
RMF
possibly could be a sandwich eaten somewhere.
I couldn't remember seeing one, but...
Well, if before we get into the story of the third one, if RMF is just that dude who dies in the first one and whatever, that's just him in all of the stories, does he eat a sandwich in this one? No, because he was a dead body, right? Anyway, let's get into it.
The sandwich was already in him. So essentially this follows, I guess, what we call two people hunting, searching detectives.
Yes.
Like searching, I guess is probably the best way.
The searches.
They struck me like paranormal investigation.
Yeah, as part of a cult.
Yeah.
That I think gets off on longevity and purity. They are searching for someone that is able to heal and bring people back from the dead. Correct?
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
More or less. And so this person has certain criteria. I think it was 120 pounds.
Yeah.
5 foot something.
Yeah.
Has a dead twin. And anyway, so I guess, how do I put it here? So they're looking for this person, and then there's the subplot of Emma Stone and her family, and then the cult, which is essentially they check back in with, and there's like sauna murder almost.
Yeah.
Where they sauna the impurities out of people.
So yeah, the setup is basically Emma Stone's character and Jesse Plemons' character, and they have, their professional working relationship, I guess you could call it. And then at nighttime when they're in the motel sleeping, Emma Stone's character will sneak out so she can go see her daughter, or in the morning even see her daughter, and try not to see her husband. But on one of the nights she sneaks out, she goes there, the husband's like, yo,
stay a
while, hang out.
He drugs her.
He, sprinkles some magic in her
some roofies, yeah.
And
then
she's like, ooh, falls asleep or whatever the fuck, and then
rapes her.
and he goes to go to work. I mean that metaphorically.
Gotcha.
And then it's like, yeah, what the fuck? She wakes up and she's like,
That's so fucked.
Don't smile.
That was such a fucked analogy. Bro.
she wakes up and she's like, holy fuck, this guy has just made me. She's more concerned about being
The impurity.
not pure, which is so sad.
Because then she'll get
I suppose that might
dejected
be some
from
sort
this.
of commentary on it, like that people are less
the
concerned
shame
about the fact that they just got raped and more concerned about the fact that she's going to be shunned from
society.
her society. Yeah.
Well, so the cult doesn't accept her because she has STD, I believe, is...
I don't know if she's an STD. It's just like the fact that
They just say
they just
she's
know.
impure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so because something with the sweat.
Because what's the Asian?
Hong Chao.
Hong Chao, yeah.
Hong Chao licks her sweat
Sweat.
after the sauna and goes impure,
Yeah.
more or less, and she gets kicked out of the cult.
Yeah.
Anyway, so but
But then
that
she's like, I'm not leaving.
and
I'm
so
not fucking leaving.
yeah.
And so she goes and hunts down.
Yeah, so keep in mind by this point they've had a look, found twins, dead twins that haven't been the match.
Oh right,
Because they take the twin, the live twin to the hospital and
hasn't
touch them
worked.
and try and summon RMF. And anyway, so she ends up going to find the twin, which she already had interactions with.
Yeah, one of the characters, this random girl comes up to Jesse Plemons and Emma Stone's
In a bar.
character while they're eating and says, yo, I think I have what you're looking for. And they're like, dude, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, like shut up.
And then obviously...
Because there's two twins still,
Yeah.
they're both alive.
Yeah. And then so Emma Stone's character now is obviously, I guess, quite desperate and believes. She also had the dream about the two swimmers
Yeah,
and how...
and the face was the same.
Yeah.
Margaret Qualley.
Yeah. And so she goes after Margaret Qualley, the
Twins.
original twin,
Yeah.
the one that we have already met, who's like, yo, I'm going to fix your problem of there not being two of us, or one of us, sorry. And so she goes and jumps in a pool that has no water in it and
Yeah.
kills herself.
Which is a lovely tie-in later to the next film as well. There's two empty pools.
Yeah.
It's two more than I'd expected for this podcast.
And then,
But yeah, so it's pretty gruesome. She kills herself.
yeah, and then from there, Emma Stone goes and finds her twin, who's like a
vet.
vet, yeah.
And that's why she's so good
Oh,
at
the
it.
way she does that is by stealing like a random
A
dog.
homeless dog.
Oh yeah.
That was so
cutting
awesome.
its leg.
Yeah.
That was gruesome. Not
Yeah.
gruesome, just not nice. And then she takes it to the vet. She drugs the vet, does she not?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
later though when she comes back,
Yeah.
and then she steals her,
And
Yeah.
then
takes her to the morgue.
revives RMF. Which, by the way, earlier, Hunter Schafer's in this for 3 minutes.
Yeah, that was such rubbish to use her in the advertising. She was in like one
Oh, yeah.
scene.
Yeah, because
Rubbish.
they strip Hunter Schafer naked. Make just because it's Yorgos Lanthimos. Try and make her revive RMF, doesn't work, so they just get rid of her, just kick her out. Essentially.
Yeah,
And
I
she's
thought it
pleading,
was-
right? She's like saying, "No, give me another shot." Blah blah blah
Yeah.
blah blah.
Yeah.
And anyway, so does Emma end up getting Margaret? No, she doesn't, right?
She's at the end. Margaret Qualley, or the twin that's the one with powers, is like still asleep. She's like, oh.
Oh yeah, in the car.
And then she just like holds her hand up and
Oh,
puts it on the
gotcha.
dead body, and then he's like,
Yeah, so
oh
it
my
comes
God.
back to life. And anyway, so the whole time she's driving a really sick Dodge Demon. Purple muscle car, which you see in the trailer with the Sweet Dreams.
Driving
baby.
it is an understatement. She is
Tearing that shit up.
smashing that.
Second coming of
And
Furiosa.
as you
Yeah.
see in the trailer, Sweet Dreams by the Eurythmics is playing. It's a good song. It's cool. That's actually what drew me to this film, is that trailer.
Right.
But you're right, Nick?
Yeah.
Excellent.
The fuck?
And anyway, so she's speeding now that she's seen Margaret Qualley's character revive this man to the cult to try and get reaccepted into her society, her family, more or less. And the film ends.
Well, you forgot
We'll crash.
the dancing.
Oh yeah, the film
Dancing,
ends
bro,
with her
that's-
after the hospital
Just
dancing.
going crazy, bro.
Some good dancing.
Going
She's a good
freak
dancer.
mode.
Yeah.
Going absolute spaz
And
mode.
that song's really good as well.
Yeah.
But then the problem is, you two said that that's such an open-ended
Well, yeah. So
ending.
as I was saying, the movie technically ends there.
Yeah, that's when the credits are drawn.
And then the post-credit scene of her driving and then crashing and the twin with special powers dies, and it's like, haha.
Yeah.
But the only reason, and this is what I was saying in the original podcast attempt, is that it felt like each of these movies could have been, or each of these subsections could have been their own movie.
Absolutely.
And for the case of this last one especially, if it was its own movie, it would have continued on after that part. But obviously he had to end it, and so what's the easiest way to end a story that's not done? Just kill the character who is the
Would
reason
propel the story forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's what he did. It was funny.
It is
as well.
funny,
It's a
because
funny way to
it's-
do it because it's unexpected. But
You've also built up a whole film of trying
Yeah.
to find this one
So
person that brings people back to life just to kill him. It's like the Darth Plagueis thing, I think you mentioned.
yeah,
You
I don't
know.
know if I said that, but yeah,
Well, anyway, there we go.
Do
yeah.
you not want to stuck it in Star
You
Wars?
could save others from death, but not
I was.
yourself.
Oh right, yeah. I did say that.
You did
definitely.
say that,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That was a good joke to make, actually,
Yeah.
Sorry.
because it is quite ironic. Yeah. Anyway,
sorry, this is a side note. I feel compelled to mention this. Did you guys hear about how Plagueis was in that Acolyte show?
I did for 3 seconds.
I did not know that. I didn't know anything.
He's in the finale of the Acolyte.
Well, Elaine's been following
how is he
the
in it?
Acolyte quite closely.
Apparently,
but
it's fucking terrible.
I've heard that. Wait, when is the Acolyte set?
It's set like at the dawn of the Jedi or some shit, isn't it?
So
Like,
how is Plagueis there?
I don't know.
well, because he's there hundreds of years.
Dude, Plagueis is Sidious's.
Master. Yeah,
Master.
but remember they're thousands of years. Let's have a look.
I'm not sure.
Didn't he figure out how to cheat death? Wasn't that the whole thing?
Yeah, but like, I mean,
Don't ask me. I'm not big on the.
He
deep
couldn't.
cut
He
canon.
couldn't save himself from dying.
because of,
That's the line.
didn't Palpatine murder him?
Yeah, Palpatine
Yeah.
did murder him, but he couldn't save
No,
himself.
Acolyte's only 100 years before the Phantom Menace.
Okay, that's believable then, because Plagueis is
It
Yeah.
was supposed to be like the dawn of the Jedi.
No.
Plagueis's
That's
character.
another one with Revan.
Plagueis's
they're doing.
character can.
Which will be
that
cool,
his
hopefully.
species lives a long time. I'm pretty sure. But if it's only set, sorry, this is a Star Wars rant. But if it's set 100 years before, right? Why aren't there a bunch of Sith?
Well, there are Sith in the show, apparently.
But the whole
know.
the whole point of Phantom Menace is they haven't seen Sith in hundreds of years.
Yeah, well, maybe
I think
the
it's even
Sith
maybe
are just
like-
hidden.
It's just
Well, because Plagueis in the Acolyte centers on young Jedi.
I haven't
as
seen the
far as
show,
I'm
so I
aware.
have no idea
Neither
what's
have I.
going on.
But the Acolyte centers on young Jedi, as far as I'm aware. And there's that famous scene with the pronouns, which people are just like, get a load of this. But
Jedi.
well, no, but like,
pronouns.
it's just, is it necessary in a Star Wars context?
All right, skipping
I didn't even-
skipping this whole Acolyte discussion. My one question is: do all the Jedi who meet any of these Sith die?
No,
if
they
not,
don't
then it
meet
makes
any
no sense.
Sith, is my understanding, because Plagueis is shown in a cave for 3 seconds at the end of the last episode.
But isn't there, like, there's a Sith in the show?
Is
isn't
it?
there? Well, there's some dickhead running around with a red lightsaber.
Yeah, that's why I was
I
like,
haven't seen that.
I've seen, like, because I've seen a bunch of ads for
Is
it.
it
and I've
not?
seen-
Is it not just one of those fake Sith, like
What is a
Sith?
fake Sith?
like the Sith hunters? You know the.
Oh, from like.
so wait, is this the picture right here? Is just him hiding behind a wall?
Yeah.
That doesn't have to be Darth Plagueis. He's not the only.
well, it's confirmed.
to be. Oh, okay. He does look pretty terrifying, actually. In this,
He looks like the guy from Arthur and the Invincibles.
And what I find so fucking stupid about that is that, like, apparently the show is really shit.
I just love how Disney's running Star Wars into the ground.
Oh, dude,
it's brilliant.
Like,
it is like
it's under the ground. It is in the Paris catacombs.
it is like the picture of Rome falling.
Yeah, honestly.
You know, I've used that analogy enough today
They've
already.
salted the earth straight up.
But Christ.
But like,
Way to ruin a good thing.
but seriously, they've put Plagueis in it first time ever, and then they could have a really dope season 2 where he's in it, but the show is so ass that it's not going to get renewed.
Yeah.
It's like
They
nice
fucked
work.
up the Mandalorian, you know.
Yeah, oh, the third season
Christ.
of Mandalorian.
Dude, I actually.
What a train wreck that was.
Speaking of the Mandalorian,
Lizzo was in it.
And Jack
I
Black.
haven't
I love
watched.
Jack Black, but Christ.
I haven't watched the. Is it 3 seasons now?
yeah.
I haven't watched the 3rd season,
No,
but I
the third
remember.
It's trash.
I remember, like I think it was season 2. There was like the whole thing when they were like going into an empire, like the Empire's base, and they had like the cloning things. Is that?
Yeah.
Do they keep going with that, or do they just like drop that story?
Oh, yeah, when he...
Because isn't that like supposed to be the precursor to the whole Snoke thing?
Yes. Yeah, well, it's not been brought up again, I don't think. All of season 3 was to do
Nice.
with them restoring the planet that he's from.
Okay.
The Mandalore.
I don't know.
Yeah. that's
Anyway, back to Kinds of Kindness, because we'll keep talking about Star Wars forever.
Basically, it ends.
Yeah.
But I think that, as you said, each of them could have been developed into their own film, particularly the second and third. I think the second has the strongest case of being a full-fledged. That could have been a great psychological thriller.
Yeah.
But we hypothesized that he might not have been able to get the funding or the time for all 3. So he squished them all into short films very
It felt
quickly
like,
after
like
Poor Things.
reading 3 novellas almost. I mean, the first one especially. The first one felt like a novella.
like Yorgos Lanthimos, a collection. Blah, blah,
exactly, yeah.
Which
But-
is what this is really.
Yeah.
But the
And
third,
it's
the
fine.
third felt
It's
like
so-
it had actually had stuff cut out of it. Like the
Yeah.
third was so big and expansive, and it basically left nothing answered at all.
Yeah. But
anyway.
it still worked.
Keep
which
in
is
mind,
what-
Yeah.
Poor Things only came out in Australia 7 months ago
Yeah.
as well. That's not a
Well,
long
as you
gap.
said, last attempt. I love how
So
we're like
goofy.
referencing
Yeah, we
the
have to
last
cue
attempt.
for- yeah.
Yeah. They started making this like immediately after.
Yeah, it was during, as soon as they finished shooting Poor Things and they started post-production, they went to shoot this because Yorgos feared that Poor Things would bomb and he would not be able to like make another movie. And so, but the company offered him, like greenlit another project because they were happy with how Poor Things was coming along. So he was like, I'll rush this and quickly make it. So I have another film coming out before I'm like done. But then Poor Things ended up, getting a bunch of Oscars and was a huge hit.
Yeah.
And so now he's like just sitting on money bags and
Yeah.
One thing about Poor Things quickly before we wrap up Kinds of Kindness is my dad goes, have you seen the Yorgos Lanthimos film Poor Things? I was like, yeah, I loved it. We did it on the podcast. He goes, I watched it on the plane. Fuck, it's good. He just goes, this shit is
that
incredible.
would be the weirdest thing to watch on a plane.
Everyone would be like,
Especially
imagine
if you're sitting next to some dickhead you didn't know.
and they could hear like the audio of like the weird ass
Through
like
the-
doing like the
yeah,
instrument.
the music,
Yeah.
which is
But
great.
he said it was great. He said, love Willem, loved Emma, loved the film, said it was great aesthetic,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. He was raving about it.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I mean, Poor Things, either that or The Lobster would probably be my favourite Yorgos movie. I mean,
I think
Kinds
I've
of
just
Kindness
got
is
The
good, but
Lobster.
I
it's-
think Poor Things is my favorite.
I think I've got The Lobster
and then it would
just.
be The Lobster.
I mean, Kinds of Kindness is good, but it's not close to Poor Things.
No. Actually, that reminded me just then of another thing I was saying in the last attempt. The fact that it seems like a lot of these big name directors
Auteur theory.
are getting to their like sort of just they're just doing whatever they want, so they're becoming they're getting really auteur style, just doing what they want to do. Like Wes Anderson, for example, just fully going into Wes Anderson.
Yeah. His
Lanthimos
ads are incredible as well.
Yeah.
You said Nolan
Chris
even?
Nolan, but Nolan's obvious. I mean, it's Nolan.
But what I think's great is, and this discussion happened last year when the whole Barbenheimer craze was coming out, which is that these big studios have made have just been riding off the coattails of, if it's part of a successful franchise or brand, it'll make money. They kept churning out all these crap things like Star Wars, Marvel. It was just all terrible. And now audiences are sick of all these cookie cutter bullshit blockbusters and are actually craving for some like originality and creativity. And like Oppenheimer, the reason that was a draw card was it was Chris Nolan, who's just a great director. And they're like, this will just be a good movie, And I think what's great is that, Yorgos is starting to actually have a name for himself, which like 7 years ago you would never think that would be possible because he was like this weird Greek filmmaker. But now it's like, Yorgos Lanthimos movie's out.
He's still that weird Greek film.
He is, yeah. But people actually have an interest in
But
him
now
which I
he's
think is...
that weird Greek filmmaker. rather than-
Exactly, bro.
He's like weird.
And I think that that's just great, is that people are finally seemingly starting to pay, not to everyone. I mean, there's still tons of art house movies that don't get enough sort of attention. But there are some big directors now who are genuinely, like, their name is selling, which is what it used to be. Like Spielberg or Scorsese, whatever, in the old days, that was the draw card. That and actors.
Actually, it's kind of interesting because there's the whole thing of cinema is dying. I wonder if there's going to be a revival. How awesome would a cinema revival be?
No, I
be
think that's
incredible.
where we're approaching.
Yeah.
We're approaching
I'd
a cinema
like- I'd
revival.
like-
Because I think it's
COVID was the cinema death.
It needed that, like, it just had like cancer, where it just started having all these reproduction of terrible things.
And
but now they've had chemotherapy, it's ripped out the cancer and it's
They're
gone
in
back
remission.
to health. Yeah.
Christ, there's two things though I would like to add. I think the cinema revival is slowly happening because streaming services are slowly dying already, or people are liking them less.
It's because streaming services are shit. Like,
They're-
the content is shit.
They're now expensive.
Yeah.
There's ads being
Netflix,
played.
for example, has like
Yeah.
nothing on it, and it has ads if you
Well,
don't pay
we've
for like,
been
the
with
most.
these services for so long now that they can't keep up with the demand essentially for new content, and the new
Yeah.
content they're producing is
Yeah.
not good.
Isn't Netflix not profitable? That's why they added
because
ads.
what's the problem? The problem is that they will spend like 180, $200 million in a show that people will be finished with in a week.
Yeah.
And then it'll be done. It will no longer be profitable in a week because everyone will binge it and it'll be gone.
Yeah.
And that's it. I mean, the big thing is, and we're not going to start getting into TV, but I'm quickly going to mention House of the Dragon, which is our favorite show on TV at the moment. Fucking dope.
New show.
Yeah.
And House of the Dragon's fucking great. And even though it's annoying as all fuck that you have to wait like 2 years for the next season,
It gives them time.
It gives them time to make it really good. But B is there's such a long break that House of the Dragon stays profitable because it's like the build up to it and then the aftermath goes on for a long time. Whereas this whole binge model made by streaming services is like here it's all and then it's done.
Yeah, look,
you know?
I think Binge and Stan do it better than Netflix, but even so, none of them are just good. There's all cons to all the streaming services now, and which is why people like going to the cinema, because you're just the one-off time to see only what you want. You're not paying for things you don't need.
Yeah.
Might be a little bit more expensive, but you can still go to cheap cinemas.
It's
Although
just-
the caveat to that is cinemas are still closing in Queensland, in southeast Brisbane as we
Yeah.
speak,
Well,
unfortunately.
I don't think it's going to be enough to just make good movies to get people back.
But what I think is great though, and I think this is probably a fair comment, is that because modern movies, there's less good movies nowadays than there used to be 20, 30 years ago, the further you go back. What that's done though is people have started looking back to old cinema for good content. And what you've noticed is that all cinemas now, it used to be a niche thing, but all cinemas now, and some of them, it's like their main thing, like main draw attraction, is the fact they play retro titles.
Yeah.
That you can go to the cinema and watch an old thing, which you know is going to be good. And there's a lot of interest in that now because people are interested in seeing good quality.
Being able to experience things that people did 30 years ago. Going to see Pulp Fiction and cinema.
Exactly.
Because obviously it's hard for us to say because we were kids and we've only been adults for a very short amount of time. But has that been a new thing that cinemas are really getting into the retrospective stuff that is new?
Yeah, it did always happen, but it was not a common thing, and it would only happen for short instances,
really special events.
Well,
or like Halloween. There would always be older horror movies played.
And May the
One thing that
4th, I understand,
vaguely
Star Wars was always played.
Like New Farm back in the day did like a Doctor Who, or the original episodes that are like black and white that they found. So it's definitely something they've done. But yeah, it seems like now like New Farm have their whole list of retrospectives.
It was a niche thing, and it wouldn't happen often. But now
it's
not only are they playing retro titles, you could probably go to a cinema any day and find an old retro title.
Yeah.
Or at least every week without question
awesome.
at some cinema. But it's now the drawing card.
Yeah.
Like the fact that they can go, hey guys, we have this huge catalog of old movies coming out. Plus like the new release shit. It's like,
so I would guess then that's because of the fact that people stopped coming to watch movies because they don't really want to watch all this garbage. But now, I'm going to go to the movie and watch this amazing movie that I love.
I get to watch Space Odyssey, the best film of all time, on cinema. Of course, why wouldn't I?
And especially because, and that's why I was saying COVID was like the death of the cinema, because you weren't really allowed out of your house. And if you were, obviously people, when COVID was happening, were afraid of getting COVID. And so there was a whole risk of going out. So if you're going to go out and going to do something like go to the movies, it would be like, I have to be going to see something that I know is going to be good.
Yeah.
And the problem is that, nowadays, it's pretty rare that you find something good. I mean, this year I've tried to avoid, I used to just see anything that would come out to try and watch as much as possible, but I would just be spending so much time watching mediocre or just straight up shit movies.
And then the cost does build up as well.
Exactly.
For brand new cinemas, etc.
This year I've actually been I'm only going to watch something that I'm straight up interested in and that I genuinely think is going to be good.
Yeah.
And that's what I've done, and that's been a good thing. But that's what people are doing nowadays, is that people are getting better at whittling out the bullshit and actually finding something good, but there's not that much. And so the retro shit kind of fills that void. You may only get one genuinely good movie every 2 months or something. You don't know.
Yeah.
New, so.
Yeah, anyway, we never gave ratings for Kinds of Kindness.
Might as well do it now, huh?
Nick, can I start?
8 out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll give it an 8 as well.
Gentlemen, that makes 3.
8
out of 10.
Great.
Nice.
And anyway, moving on to my pick for last episode, Frank Perry's 1968 film, The Swimmer. Now, look, it's
I do not have much to say about this.
Yeah, Nick wasn't too keen. Nick had a poor night.
Yeah,
Let's be real.
we don't need to go into it, but just, yeah.
Nick ordered food. The food didn't come. It got stolen.
My food got robbed, yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
I was not in a good mood.
this is a film, and you're already tired.
Yeah, I had a big day.
This is a film that's received quite well
Yeah.
critically, and basically I completely misinterpreted the plot. Not misinterpreted. I imagined the plot after reading the title and the
Right.
short blurb. I was like, okay, this is a man that swims through like 50 houses in Hollywood.
Right.
That's where I expect it to be. Anyway, this is set in, I guess, the hills of New York is, I think, what is mentioned. And it's about a well-liked man in his mid-40s, generally speaking.
Yeah.
A bit of a player, a charismatic, charming, middle-aged man.
Yeah.
Who comes up through a forest into one of his friends' houses.
Yes.
And they have a pool. Sorry. And it's received quite well. He's received quite well by his friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, they all love him.
Yeah, everybody
Like,
loves
he's literally
him.
the GOAT.
Yeah.
You're going, oh my god, who is this guy?
He's
What
like-
has he been up to?
Yeah. He's like
Yeah.
some sort of James Dean
Yeah, he's
sort of... Anyway.
I want to say this too. Sorry, all of like the wives of the dudes are like just
Just
crushing
fall
on
over.
him.
yeah,
Yeah.
and none of the husbands care. That's how much of a goat this dude is.
And they're like, oh my God, have a drink, stay a while.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Fuck my wife, please.
And so he... pretty much.
Yeah.
Which I think we deduced was part of the 60s culture of that leniency and the gender roles, etc. Anyway, and he's looking off into the hills with this amazing view in the house, and he goes, hold on, I can swim home. You know, there's how many properties between here and my house? They all have a pool. There's a public pool. I'm going to swim home. You know, he has this sort of freedom to him, this lighthearted nature, this happiness.
yeah, everyone's like,
this-
why would you do that?
Yeah,
He's like,
but he
got to do it.
so he starts the film really optimistic, really happy, really light of foot. And there's that the opening scene is quite mystical of him prancing through the forest. It has a dream-like feeling to it. And anyway, essentially, he has all these different experiences through the pools on the way home. Some good, some terribly negative.
Yeah, received differently, based on different previous interactions and
Yeah.
treatment of certain people.
So there's interactions with children.
Yeah. Oh, I guess we should try and go in order, right?
Okay.
The first one after that first house is like this. What is it? Is it that woman and husband? And the husband's like on his lawnmower.
Yeah.
And the woman's like, "Oh my god, you're the best."
Yeah, I haven't seen
Again,
you.
again, it's quite a "you're the best" type of thing. And then after that, he goes on to this older woman who's like, "You are the worst human I've ever
she
met."
hates him.
Because he
Absolutely hates
didn't
him.
call his friend who was sick and he knew nothing of him. And obviously she's like, well, screw you, man. You're the worst guy ever.
What a douche.
Yeah, and then so he goes, okay, whatever. That was weird. Moves on. I think the next one's the kid.
Yeah, so there's this...
Oh, no, the next one's the
naked
next
couple?
one's the teenagers.
Oh, yeah, the girl.
Yeah, the teenagers. So there's a bunch of teenagers. They're chilling. They're hanging out.
doing teenager
and then
things.
he's like, yo, you used to babysit my kids, and you are now really fine, and I want you to come with me. And she's like,
Okay.
okay. And because she
anyway-
used to crush on him or whatever.
So it's awfully creepy.
It's really creepy, dude.
Yeah,
It's
I think...
so...
And owing partly to traditional views, but also it's just, this guy's a creep.
Yeah,
Let's
it
be
was
real.
Creepazoid.
It's like
bro.
he would have been the ideal man in the 60s, I'm getting the impression.
Yeah.
Or similar
Yeah.
to that. I can picture like someone's granddad just being like that.
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A rich granddad being like that.
Anyway, eventually he comes off way too strong, and she's like,
She gets freaked out, runs away.
And then he's like, alright, keeps on moving.
So what? Does the naked couple come next, or does the horse come next?
The horse was happening with the girl.
With the girl. So he has this whole thing where he's and I guess that's the first instance of where things really go wrong. Besides the one lady that hates him,
He does his ankle.
he's running with this horse, having a jolly good time, and he rolls his ankle.
He jumps over like a pretty low.
Yeah, he's
thing.
doing that.
What the horses do when they jump over the
It's like
obstacles.
there's an actual name for it. People do it now. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, he does his ankle, and he's like, and then
And so
they keep on going. And then and the next one is like, I think it's the little boy
There's this little boy who's just like, he's at this house by himself.
The empty pool.
Yeah, he's at this house by himself. His parents have left him there and gone on honeymoon.
Yeah, it's just like a 7-year-old kid as well. He's
Yeah.
with his maid, and that's it.
And he's just chilling. And then they go to the pool, and he's like, well, you're not going to be able to swim through the pool because there's no water. And then the main dude's like,
You can pretend.
guess we're going to have to imagine it. And the kid's like, but what the hell? And so they fake swim through, and then they get out, and he's like, look, man, to the little kid, he's like, if you imagine enough, it'll be real to you.
Yeah.
And then so he starts leaving, and then he hears the kid jumping
on the
and chilling
springboard.
out on the diving in board thing. And he's like, oh my God, I've convinced this kid that there's water there. He's going to jump
Yeah.
and kill himself.
Yeah.
So he
then
sprints back.
And then the kid's like, bro, what? Are you,
Yeah.
are you dumb?
You're tripping balls, man.
Like, why
Jesus
would I
Christ.
jump into an empty pool, you absolute moron?
And then from here on is where things just start
Yeah.
going really pear-shaped in my eyes. It's the first introduction of a real child, which later gets hinted at with his family, and then the problems he's had with that. But everyone talks about his family.
Yeah.
Some people talk about it in the past tense, others in the present.
Yeah.
How's your wife? Or I'm so sorry about your wife.
Yeah.
There's no real
And,
clarity,
yeah.
and it's left up to us
Yeah, you're quite like...
until the very end.
Because what you're thinking is, oh, did they get divorced? Oh, did she have an accident? Oh, is she dead?
where are the kids? All these
Oh.
things.
Oh, wait, no, they might be together and it's just something happened. Or you're
she's
very
just
like...
at home. You
Yeah.
can't figure out what's going on, I think,
Yeah.
till the end. And even then, the one answer about the family itself isn't explained.
Yeah. And so eventually it starts to get revealed that he's also maybe not very well off because there's that naked couple who are like, oh no, it's $1,000 bro, you can't
Yeah, you can't afford this.
afford this. And he's like, all right.
And then you call back to, we came out of a forest.
Yeah.
He came out of a forest barefoot.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the naked couple's next. They're very, posh. Talking about some sort of, like, what do you call it? The tennis club, the country club stuff.
Yeah.
And so he sees them, he just strips naked.
Because they're naked. That's
Yeah,
what
like,
they do.
what a welcoming, what a accepting person. And he has that interaction with them.
The thing that I love is that he covers his penis just because, like, the camera obviously can't show that. But it's
Yeah.
like, it still ruins the illusion that he would be comfortable doing it anyway.
And then, so he has the interaction with that person. And then that is then the ex-lover is next. That's like the longest interaction we have.
Is it ex-lover next, or is it the
Public pool.
public?
No, public
the
pool's
pool
last.
party? No, the pool
That's
party.
at the end.
Oh, the pool party. Pool
Because
party,
pool party,
then ex-lover, then
the pool
public
party
pool.
where everyone hates
him.
this dude. He is the worst human. And then he's like, yo, that's my hot dog
Yeah,
stand.
so I think he gets his hot dog stand stolen. 'Cause
No,
he
his
talks
wife
about-
sold it.
Oh,
And they're like, dude, your wife sold it to us. And he's like, I don't
Gotcha.
care, give it back. I'll give you all of my money for it. And they're like, dude, get the fuck out of
yeah.
here.
So he's not liked. He's trying to get drinks and they're not giving him any.
Yeah. And then he fucks
He's
off.
coming onto the women. He's not getting anything reciprocated.
Which is completely different to the previous sort of experience we've had
Interactions,
with him.
particularly the first one where we're introduced to him.
Yeah.
So he's just hated by this point by everyone.
Yeah.
In that pool party scene, they're very up themselves people, mind you. And then he runs into the next pool, an ex-lover.
Yeah. Who wants nothing to do with him. And he's very pushy. Gets to the point where he makes her come
sexually assaulted.
Yeah,
her
he comes in the
by
pool
the
and
end
he's
of
like,
it.
come on, blood, take off your clothes. And she's like,
Yeah, so he unties her
Brother.
bra and then she
she's like,
screams
get the hell
and shit.
off me.
She makes her
And
pour a
then he
drink.
swims away, I guess. And
Yeah, so he ends up. So essentially, you've got him dealing with conflict around his wealth,
his family,
his family, and
previous relationships.
prior relationships, and his social standing as well.
Yeah.
which is accumulation of all three.
Yeah.
And the last one is the public pool where it ends up he just has no money.
He can't afford going in.
And he
then
bumps
this-
into someone he knows.
who pays for him, and turns out that guy's like a restaurant owner or something, and he's basically just been eating there and never paying for it or something.
Yeah.
Owes him a lot of money,
Uh-huh.
but he's just doesn't really care, I guess.
And then the public pool is full.
it's crazy.
Do you reckon that's just like a haha look an obstacle, or is it a haha this is like clutter? This is
I think
his
it's supposed to
life?
be like, I think this
Is
is
it symbolic,
This is
or-
yeah, I think this is also something I just realized then is the further, so it starts furthest away from his home, and the closer that you get to his home, the more people hate him.
Yeah.
And obviously that's because they're closer to him, but I think that's also supposed to represent.
Yeah.
the fact that you're getting closer to like
The actual issues in your life.
yeah, and obviously it ends. He climbs over the rock.
Yeah, so his home's just over the hill past the public
Gets
pool.
to his home. It's pouring down rain by this point.
Yeah, storming.
His
It's really
house,
setting the atmosphere.
His house is just like not being taken care of.
It's a mansion, it's gutted, but it's overgrown.
It seems like no one's been there for a very long time.
He has like a box of possessions at the front door inside, and that's
And
it.
he can't get inside because he's got no key and it's locked.
Yeah, he's shaking at the door, and it ends up ending with him, banging on the door and then crumbling into himself into like a fetal position at the door as the storm rages, and then it ends.
Yeah, and so what's the interpretation? Oh, the American dream. Oh, that's the movie. Oh, the American dream. Oh. That's how.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
just an.
That's my level of interpretation. Oh.
I mean, it's just it's been explored in a bunch of different things. That sort of just the facade of a man and sort of his what he projects to the world compared to what he actually is.
Yeah.
And seemingly has everything but actually has nothing.
Yeah.
And the more that people actually got to know him, the more they hate him.
Yeah, or the more that you get to know him, the more you hate him, etc. Which I think was all the case for us. Unfortunately, so we tend to leave our end of our individual pick for the month to the end of, or right before we record the next film. So it's fresh, etc. And with this case, unfortunately, I think it's a film where you need to be ready for it, in the sense that it's older, it's slow. Well, it's actually not quite slow. I think it dragged.
I didn't think it was boring.
You were desperately uninterested the entire film.
I watched the whole thing.
I know, but yawning on your phone.
Well, I was tired, and I was keeping track of my food order.
on the phone wasn't like he was scrolling. He was literally just
Uber.
staring like, when is this
Staring at
coming,
Uber.
boy?
But I got everything. I watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was boring. I was just thinking about other stuff. And I mean, it does its thing well, but it's been done, like the thing it's exploring has been done better in other things, i.e. Mad Men, which this movie was compared to, or something like that.
Well, Mad Men is based off this, is what people were saying.
Thematically, yes. And I've obviously watched Mad Men, and it's much better. Obviously, I had a lot more time to explore these ideas.
And it's new. There's better...
It's a better format to tell it to.
Yeah. I think Isaac said you would enjoy a recreation or a remake of this.
Yeah.
I think you said it has the potential to be quite good.
It could have been made again, and it would probably be better. Won't happen, though, obviously.
No. I think...
It's a perfectly adequate movie.
Yeah.
It's good for
I enjoyed
certain parts.
I think it's probably the bias of my pick.
Yeah.
I mean, I had more interest in it. I picked it. I obviously wanted to like it. And I liked it enough. I didn't love it.
Yeah.
By no means. I don't think it's
I thought it was
deserves
I
love.
just think it's a pretty interesting premise. Like, it's quite original. I don't know of any other thing before that where they're like, this would be a good idea.
It's another one I think we've said that it's kind of like reading a novella.
Yeah.
This book. Like, really much like that.
Yeah.
Especially
it could be a good book, actually. Is it a book? It seems like it could be a great book.
I'm searching that
Like
up
a
now.
If it's a book, I might read that.
It's based on a short story.
Okay, well,
that checks.
Yeah. Short story does make sense. It's honestly
12-page short
the exact
story.
premise of a short story, right? Where it's like this kind of simple story, but it really has this quite different
It's all about
message.
the thematic
Sort
sort of...
But yeah, I mean, it was interesting for sure.
I think some of the cinematography was excellent. I think, unfortunately, it lost itself in that one tunnel vision forest scene. It was supposed to sort of be off-putting and like the wheels are falling off. But I think just due to the time period itself, it was a bit...
What was that shot of the horse in his eye? That was very cool.
Oh, yeah,
that
they
was a
did the back
brilliant
to
shot.
front zoom in on
Yeah,
the
you saw
eye,
what
and then
he
you see
saw.
what he saw with the iris in the
That
iris.
was brilliant. Yeah.
That was excellent.
Some of
Frankly,
the best shots I've ever
It had
seen.
some really interesting like editing choices, which kind of distinguished it from other movies.
Yeah.
I mean, especially from the time, like it was definitely more abstract in
Yeah.
its presentation than most movies from that era.
Yeah.
It's this director's most acclaimed film as well. But I think it's definitely not a run-of-the-mill 60s film by no means. Keep in mind, a year later you do have Space Odyssey.
Well, but that's the precipice of 60s.
Yeah.
That's the precipice of cinema.
Yeah.
Everything else about is just that.
The one thing I'll say is, like, I don't know, I didn't necessarily find it interesting enough that I really want to think about it and really get into, like, at an interesting interpretation, other than like
Sorry, it's the same year as Space
get
Odyssey.
around like the
Well, it was.
edges of what it's trying to do.
I felt like I got it.
Yeah, I mean, I get,
but
I get like what it's trying to say.
I don't feel the need. Like there would be no need to watch it again.
Yeah, and get really into like the nitty gritty.
I get it. Like sure, and you know, I'm sure if you kept watching it, you could start to pick apart everything that each
Yeah,
of the characters
really
says.
develop it, but you get the central
But
point.
it's like, yeah, it's not interesting enough to
Exactly right.
You know, the characters aren't that interesting to want to really dive deep into it.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, it's,
yeah,
yeah.
that's-
Someone calls it Don Draper syndrome, Nick.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
just such an insult because Don Draper is such a fucking legend. You know. Of a character, he's not a good person. I want that stipulated. I don't approve of Don Draper, but you know, his character is amazing.
but he is an absolute weapon.
He is an absolute weapon of a
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Are we good, like, just to do ratings?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have much else to say because I think like as we said, because of this sort of novella feel of it, there isn't really too much to explore other than
It's a
what
short
happened.
film too, it's 90
what happened
minutes.
and how that builds up what it's trying to say. And I think that's what we've done. We've explored quite well.
But it chugged along.
Yeah.
I appreciated that it was short. Like, if it went on for 2 hours, it would have been fucking boring. But
Well,
it was
actually,
like...
perhaps is there any downsides? Any things that we think it did poorly?
I just don't think it did anything particularly
Yeah.
exceptionally. I
think
just
I
thought
agree
it was
with
very
that.
much like...
Had its moments.
thought it was solid. I got it. I didn't think it was particularly deep, to be honest, because it didn't... This kind of idea takes a long time to really get into the nuts and bolts.
Perhaps you would have needed,
You know.
less pools, but then the premise doesn't work as
No,
much.
do they need more pools? It should have just been at pools.
Infinity pools.
It should have been like a
Fuck yes.
It should have been a 3-hour pool movie. He didn't swim in the pools enough. There should have been longer pools that he just swam.
Well, yeah, because there were some incredible transitions. I think you mentioned with editing. Some of the
Yeah,
pool to pool
pools-
transitions.
yeah, they were good, actually.
They were smooth.
One thing
too.
I hated about this movie is that he calls it like the river, but most of it is on foot,
land.
Yes.
Yeah.
which is a bit
Uh-huh.
like I get the idea, but it's just a bit silly. But anyway, ratings.
Look, I'm happy to start. I'll give it a 7. I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Better than a lot of things we've covered on this podcast. Worse than a lot as well.
I think I'll give it a 6
Yeah,
No
I'm going
worries.
to say the same.
because that's still
Yeah.
good,
Yeah.
but it's nothing like mind blowing.
Yeah, agreed.
Excellent.
All right,
Let's move on to Isaac's pick.
my
I
pick.
wonder what it is.
Yeah, again, my pick got discovered. I don't know why.
Marlon
This,
this time, not me.
I'm a
yeah,
genius.
I don't know why this always happens to me. I think I'm.
That's my
Because you're a
first guess.
simpleton.
Maybe it is. I'm just very predictable. I don't put much effort, I guess, into the
No, you
picks.
don't.
I just sort of go, all right, we should watch this.
Yeah.
But they're always pretty good, I feel like.
Sure.
Anyway, this pick, I cannot believe none of us have seen it. It's actually very embarrassing.
Actually.
Yeah, Metropolis by Fritz Lang. It is
Oh,
incredibly
shit,
embarrassing
okay.
that none of us have seen this.
Wow. Okay.
And I think it should just, we have to
Jesus.
see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is kind
Been on my watch list for how long?
That is kind of
I
embarrassing.
think it's been on my watch list for 4 years now.
It's one of those things where it's like,
Well, it's one of those. Yeah, it's like silent. I'm like,
Actually,
yeah, that's exactly right. But I watched the
Brothers
very,
Karamazov movies.
I saw a very short clip of the movie. I said, "Hey,
it's also 2.5 hours.
put it on." Yeah, it's 2.5 hours.
But
It's the Brothers Karamazov
not one,
movies.
not
Yeah.
one person on my letterbox has seen it. But 6 people have it on their watch
Yeah.
list.
Yeah.
Actually, now
That
that I
checks
say,
out.
when you say the Brother Karamazov movies, I was after I read Crime and Punishment the
Yeah.
first time, I was like, I'm gonna watch. Hopefully, there's a movie of this, and there is a movie, but I'm pretty sure it's like 4 hours long or some crazy shit.
See, I actually think that book is so good that I don't even want to
No,
see a
yeah.
movie adaptation.
No, I think
I
a
actually
movie
have a
would be
picture
worse.
of the characters in my
The
head.
movie
I
would
don't
be
want to.
so much worse.
The movie has 6 fans on Letterboxd and a cumulative about 4,000 views.
Yeah, it was
Hang on,
probably because
there's
you can
I
only
think there's a
find
bunch
it in
of them.
Russia or something.
No,
Hour and a half long.
No, not that one.
The 1935 one?
No.
The
Oh,
1970?
1935? No, I think it's 1970.
Hour and a half, bro. They must have butchered the source material.
1970, 221 minutes.
See, that makes sense. 'cause
yeah.
that
Yeah,
would
3
actually
hours
fit-
40.
that would
And that's
fit.
got a pretty good rating. It's got 3.8.
Yeah, and only 300 people have seen it. Or 1,000 people have seen it.
Yeah, well, who's going to go watch Crime and Punishment
A
1970?
4-hour Russian film in black and white.
Yeah.
Mate, well, I want to eventually.
If it
watch
ain't
that.
Tarkovsky-
I want to watch that War and Peace adaptation, which is 7 hours.
Yeah, man.
But Criterion Channel's actually good. They've split it into episodes, so you can watch it like a mini series.
Oh, like Flanny and Alexander.
Yeah, you can watch 5 episodes of War and Peace, and I'm like, yeah, I'll probably just do that.
Got to read the book too, bro.
Alrighty. Well, thank you all for listening.
Yeah.
Have
we
a wonderful.
decided what we're doing next?
Yes. So, do you want me to?
Yeah.
So next episode 18, we will be doing Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is it called
probably-
Deadpool and Wolverine?
Deadpool 3.
That's the movie
Deadpool
title.
Wolverine, yeah.
Deadpool and
It's quite
Wolverine.
boring, actually. I
And
feel like we would have done like a funny title.
Nick Cage's Long Legs.
Long Legs.
Long legs, yeah.
Long Legs would
Two
be a
of
very
them.
different film.
Two of them, or is it more of them?
No.
How many long legs?
He's just got 2 long legs.
It's
Yeah.
Spider 8.
Are we? I think we've got to try and record this next episode fairly soon.
Yes.
There'll probably not be as much of a gap between episodes.
Perhaps 3 weeks.
Yeah.
gap.
Well, just because people want to hear like the hype for Long Legs and Deadpool and Wolverine is like right now.
And it will dissipate.
It'll just
Yeah.
play quickly. So it's like we've got to kind of.
So we'll
get
try
it.
and get that done.
Yep.
When do they come out? Next Deadpool comes out next week.
This
Long
week.
Legs came out already.
Long Legs is out.
Deadpool's
yeah.
next week. Yeah, Long Legs is out. Well, enjoy going back to uni or having a break or whatever you're doing,
Mines.
work.
Yeah, whatever you're doing.
Go back to the mines.
Go back to the mines.
Go back to the lines.
Whatever you're doing.
Hey, have a
back
great
to the
afternoon.
Alps.
Thank you all for listening.
Yep. Thank you.
Cheers.